recently published a book called Consider Yourself as Eve, and it is a guide to spiritual development, particularly for women, but I think it has a lot of value for men as well. One of the things that we'll probably talk about tonight is that dichotomy of masculine and feminine, and we have to have both. They define one another. So that's a main theme of the book. I am also a podcast host. I have a podcast called the Latter-day Disciples Podcast. So I am LDS. Most of our community is LDS. That said, the principles that we're going to talk about tonight and the principles that I discuss in my book are truly universal. I think that these things transcend denominations and faith lines and languages and nations of all kinds. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity of being with you all tonight. I wanted to start by just taking a quick poll, if you guys wouldn't mind, and asking the question of, what question did I want to ask? I don't even know. Okay, so I want to ask the question, on a scale from 1 to 5, how comfortable do you feel you are with the idea of there being a Heavenly Mother, a co-creator with God that is partnered with God the Father? Just hold up fingers, 1 to 5.
So 5 being very comfortable.
5 being you're all the way there. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, good. I figured, since this was the point of the event, most of the times it's people that already kind of know that are attracted to it. Okay, now, same system, okay, 1 to 5. How much do you feel like you know about Heavenly Mother? This is kind of a trick question, because a 5 would be like perfect knowledge, like you've got her on speed dial, that kind of intimacy. But how would you rate your understanding of who she is and her work and how she interacts with you on a scale from 1 to 5? 3s, 2s, 4s, 1s, all across the board, right? That's awesome. Thank you all so much for being vulnerable. Me too. I want you to know, my journey learning about Heavenly Mother is honestly not that long. It's been less than 2 years. It was at the beginning of January 2023 when I was praying to God. I'm a very spiritual person, much more than I am religious, I would say. But the spirituality of religion is really what connects to me. And I was praying to God and I was asking, I said, God, I want to be sanctified. I want to be pure. I want you to get all this ickiness out of me. What do you want me to do? And I was scared to pray that because I just knew God was like, you have to sell everything you own and you have to do, I was just convinced that God was going to come back and say, okay, sacrifice everything, right? But I really meant it. I really wanted that gift of sanctification that can come from God. And so I prayed from that. And the answer that I got was so shocking to me. My friend had sent me a podcast episode. And through the instrumentality of the conversation, I heard my answer from God. And God's answer to me was, if you want to be sanctified as a woman, you need to know your Heavenly Mother. And up until that point in time, I knew that there was a Heavenly Mother. I believed that she existed. And I tried to tell my children, I've got 4 kids, 8 and under. I tried to tell them, you have a Heavenly Mother just like you have a Heavenly Father. I tried to communicate that to them. But other than that, it wasn't really on my mind at all, okay? So it's really just been in the last 2 years that I feel like this is something that God has brought into my life so strongly. I do feel like it is a part of my life's mission and the work that I have to share. And so I'm excited to share some things about that with you tonight. Okay, so from there, we're going to have a discussion tonight, okay? This is discussion format. I hope that you each feel like your throat chakras are open and that you want to talk to me. Because I hope that this can be a very collaborative experience. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep dive into symbols, okay? Symbolism is a language. It is the language that God, our Heavenly Parents, speak. And there are reasons behind that. Okay, symbols are so incredible because with a single image, you can communicate a million levels of truth. All the way from the micro levels of truth that we see, almost a cellular level of truth, all the way up to the universal, the galactic, the cosmic, okay? And every degree in between. And so our Heavenly Parents use symbols to communicate to each of us exactly where we are. One of the things about Heavenly Mother is that she is a mystery. She's mysterious, right? In the scriptures, we learn that God, Jesus Christ, invites us to learn mysteries. Okay? We sometimes forget that when we're living our everyday life and we're just caught up in all that mortality requires of us. But that is an invitation from God, is to part the veil and to learn the things that God knows. So we're going to be discussing her. I think that this is very important. It's very timely. One of the things that I've learned about where we are in history is that I don't think it's just me that needs to know my Heavenly Mother. I think that she is going through a restoration of herself at this time. She's coming into human history like she hasn't before. And we see that everywhere. There's a global movement going on right now where the divine feminine is really taking the stage. And we see that in the stars, we see it in movements and institutions. It's really, really exciting. So I hope that tonight I can share some things with you that help increase your level of familiarity with your Heavenly Mother. Everything I share is up to you to determine whether or not it's true, whether or not it resonates with you, whether or not it's something that you want to apply. Okay? Don't take anything I say for doctrine, although a lot of what's going to come out is what you guys are going to present. So you're going to be able to discover her yourself really organically. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else that I missed? Okay, so we're going to talk about symbols. What I'm going to have us do is we're going to brainstorm symbols that have to do with the process of birth. Okay? And I want you to get really granular as we're talking and thinking about this. I want to think about really specific images, colors, principles, things that come to mind for you that have to do with birth. And what we're going to discuss is these symbols, what they teach us about our Heavenly Mother and what they teach us about ourselves, especially ourselves as women. Okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and start this brainstorm list. Is this really a whiteboard? Okay.
It's a shower board.
Okay. This might be permanently embossed on this board right now. Okay. All right. So everyone, put on your thinking caps. Let's start brainstorming. When you think about birth, what images come to mind? And again, we're going to use these as symbols that help us unveil things about our Heavenly Mother. Everything that we experience in this life is a shadow of something greater. Even our own experience. Even though we're mortal and it's fallen and imperfect, the things that we go through, if we look at them closely, can teach us things about God. Okay, so that's where we're going to be going. So birth, what I mean by birth is the whole process. We're going to, sex, pregnancy, labor, delivery, after birth, first year of life, that's the timeline that we're talking about. We can talk about anatomy, we can talk about things like that, if you guys are comfortable with that, because there's some really deep symbolism there. Make sense? Are we all good? Okay. All right, so go ahead, let's start. The first symbol that comes to mind when you think of the birth process, what do you guys got?
Lotus. Lily pad.
Ooh, you're jumping way into the symbolism. Where does that come from? How does it connect to birth for you?
It's like rebirth, new life. That and cherry blossoms. They always come the first of spring. They come in the water, and then they just give a whole new feel to the area. A feel of creation, a feel of peace, and just more wholesomeness.
I think when she said spring, that would be another one.
Mm-hmm. You guys you're going straight to the deep symbols here.
I'm thinking blood, sweat, sickness.
Okay, this is more along the lines of what we're talking about. Okay, so this is beautiful. I do want to address this really quick, okay, because we've got some people who are very symbolically minded, which is great. We need to know some things about this that help the symbol come to life, right? So, a lotus flower, usually planted at the bottom of a body of water, okay, in the mud, in the icky. And it comes up every day with the sun and blooms above the water. And then every night it retreats. back into the mud. And so when she said, this reminds me of birth, the lotus is literally a birth and death and rebirth. Its entire existence, okay? And the cherry blossoms in the spring as well. Flowers in general, right? Coming alive in the spring. The earth coming alive, Mother Earth. There's a lot there, right? But this is kind of more the direction that I actually want to go. We're gonna go blood, sweat, and tears, okay? So let's start with one of those things. Blood. What do we know about blood?
Carries nutrients, carries life throughout the body.
There's oxygen.
And it's red. So red would be another.
What's the symbolism of red?
So red, like blood, but it's power. A red is a very powerful color. I wore it tonight from blood.
That's beautiful. Mary Magdalene is said to have had red hair. I think that that's very significant. She's a very beautiful type of the divine feminine. If you're looking for places to go, people to study, she's a really wonderful one. Blood. The life is in our blood. Life-giving. Okay? The stewardship of women is to give life. And I want you to hear that in the most expansive way possible. Okay? I am talking about children, obviously. That is quintessential to our womanhood. But we give life a million ways in addition to that. Okay?
Will we magnify anything we're given?
Exactly. When we step into our role as women, when we embrace the mission that we're called to do, we are imparting our blood, our spiritual blood. Okay? Is anyone here LDS? Everyone is LDS. Awesome. Amazing. So for those of you who have gone to the temple, we can take this another level deep now that I know the room. Okay? For those of you who have gone to the temple, there's a very important difference between the men and the women that is pronounced at the beginning of the endowment session. Do you know what I'm talking about? What is it? And what's the difference? Women are already clean from the blood and sins of this generation. Why? We're already giving our blood. We give our blood physically, literally, every month for most years of our life. We give our blood in childbirth, but we are also giving this. Our life and our power is consecrated to give others life and power. That's a main theme that I talk about in my book, is how women, we raise up children, yes, we raise up our husbands. We raise up our sisterhoods, these circles that you have. It's a powerful priesthood that we're a part of, okay? That's the symbol, part of it. There's a million levels to all of this. Thank you. Okay.
Pain.
Pain.
I was going to say suffering is so perfect.
What do we think about pain and suffering as a symbol?
It seems to be something that's necessary whenever you want to grow or excel or have some sort of success or change in life. Whether it's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual.
The Heavenly Father always brings low that which He's about to exalt.
Yes.
I feel like it has like a level of sacrifice embedded into it.
I think it's a law of opposition too.
Say that again?
I think it's a law of opposition too. Like if you're going to have pain, there's going to be joy also.
There's a compensatory power there.
Yeah.
This is what, I love that. There's a descent before the ascent. Okay? This is a temple pattern. There is a fall before there's an atonement and a creation. And then there's a fall again and an atonement and creation, okay? Death, rebirth, again. This imagery, okay? Applying that to literal birth, it's interesting to think about the fact that our spirits went through a spiritual death when we were born, right? When we came into this world, there was a cost, but we paid it. Why did we pay it?
The reward is great.
We knew that it was going to be worth it, right? And we knew that somebody else's blood, Jesus Christ's blood, would make it worth it. Okay. All right, let's get a little bit more granular. Let's think about pregnancy specifically. What symbols can you think of when it comes to pregnancy? Or characteristics of pregnancy that come to mind?
There's the moon, because at first you don't see it, and then it swells up. And the moon has so many symbolisms when it comes to pregnancy. Moon
I was
is
gonna say you sacrifice your body.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never wear a bikini again. Never.
not until you
Some
got
people.
so secure with
Not that you
yourself
ever
that you've
did,
been carrying it, you're like,
Now you don't have a choice. I mean, you could.
There's themes of sacrifice in all of us. It's very true. Very true. Your belly is a moon, or the moon is a belly. I love that. I love that idea, right? Where there's a growth and there's a recession in all of these things. The moon is a very beautiful feminine symbol. I'm sure you guys know that. The cyclical nature of it, right? There's cycles. Pregnancy is a cycle, even. Okay. What else?
Water.
What about water?
You retain it.
You retain water. I like it.
Yes, that is it.
Protects your baby, like you have the flu. Yes, yes.
And your water breaks.
It's true. We've been there. So we're retaining water in our ankles and our wrists and our belly and our face, and especially in our sac, right? There are the fluids that surround our baby in the womb. And those are protective. They're also dark, right? It's dark in there. One of the things about Heavenly Mother, jumping ahead, along with her being mystery, she is veiled. She is that dark side of the moon, right? We don't see her. She's not as visible as Heavenly Father is. Not that she's always going to stay that way, because she's like the moon, right? Sometimes it's a new moon. We're coming into a full moon phase with our Heavenly Mother. But that dark water is not scary, and it's not evil. It's unknown. It's a mystery. It's creative, right? Let's talk about womb space. How is the womb a symbol? What'd you say?
when you get pregnant, and the egg comes down and it implants into this big, squishy couch type of womb where it's like just so juicy and ready for that baby to attach and to nourish and feed that baby, and it just encompasses and stretches and grows, and it takes care of all the needs, all of the things.
It's almost like Earth. We have our bubble of protection of air. We have our place where we can grow that has all the food and nutrients and everything. And we have our fight for survival, which all the sperms go through that. They gotta fight for survival, and the egg has to fight for survival.
I learned something about that. Can I share something about that?
Yeah.
And I'm in a room with midwives, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. I always thought, so I learned, and maybe you guys did too, that for an egg to be fertilized, kind of exactly what you're talking about, an egg is released, a couple has sex, and all of the sperm race for the egg. And it's the fastest sperm is the one, right?
And the strongest.
And the strongest. But what I learned recently is that the egg emits a hormone that selects the sperm. And it brings the sperm in, and it beheads all the other sperm.
Yes.
It says, nope. Yep. And
Like, this is what I'm looking for.
okay. So something to think about. We're going to come back and talk about how all of this applies to the divine feminine. Okay. Let's talk more anatomy. Let's talk about breasts. What do breasts signify?
Nourishment, milk,
comfort is a big one. All of those are true. In the ancient Egyptian culture, sometimes you'll see depictions of a cow, which was Hathor, which was the queen goddess. And sometimes that cow has multiple breasts, like a lot of breasts, like hundreds of breasts.
Wow.
Which sounds really uncomfortable and kind of gross, right? And you see that and you're like, that's a little bit much, okay? And without an understanding of symbolism, you might say those people were breast crazy. Plus the cow, like what is that even about, right? We can't understand it. Until you understand, first off, that cow is a symbol of the Divine Mother, and that the breasts were a symbol for comfort. Okay. So what they were depicting
Is that she had infinite comfort.
that she has infinite comfort, capacity to cover and hold, embrace each of her children, and to give that comfort that only a mother can give when she holds a baby to her breast, or a child, or a husband, right? There's nothing like that. It's the most comforting feeling, and she has that infinitely. We won't go too much into male-female genitalia, but I would present the thought that if a holy of holies is where earth and heaven touch, then the feminine body is a temple. It is a temple to which men can enter and work in combination with the woman to bring forth life with God. Okay. Men's bodies are temples too. But this is the Holy of Holies is in the feminine body. It's in the female body. Okay, other symbols.
I'll bring one up. The tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wearing my placenta necklace, and it shows the tree that you would see, and they call it the tree of life. That's on your placenta.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that one a little bit more because I have a fun story to tell. But yes, I didn't know that until my fourth baby. Okay, I had 3 babies, hospital births. Everything was great in the hospital. I was medicated. They were fine. With my 4th baby, I did a home birth in my master bedroom. Very different experience, and it was amazing, as I'm sure several of you know. It was so great, and that was the first time I ever saw a placenta, even though I had grown 4 by that time.
Yeah, they don't show you.
Yeah, they never show you, which is a shame, because it's amazing, and it looks exactly like that. It looks like a tree of life. The tree of life is one of the most ancient, universal symbols, okay? Almost every culture in the world had a tree of life symbol, okay? These are people that are separated by language, they're separated by geography. There's not the interconnectedness that we have in our world today at all. But they all have a tree of life. Okay? We'll come back and talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so we talked a lot about labor, delivery, death, rebirth. We talked about the womb. One thing that's really interesting about feminine anatomy as opposed to male anatomy is that we have all of our eggs by the time we're born as women, right?
You actually do continue to make them, but
Okay,
you can,
good.
in general, common knowledge, you can say that. but
Okay, good.
yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
We have most of our, is that fair? We have most of our
Most of
eggs?
them.
Okay, we have most of our eggs by the time we're born. As opposed to the male cells, which they're going through a constant death and rebirth all the time, right? Like their turnover rate, very, very high. Women, for the most part, have pretty much all of our eggs from the time that we're born. So I want you, let's see, how do I want to talk about that? Have you guys seen the picture of the grandmother and the mother and the baby, and they're all together? The idea is that there's a point in time where when a woman is pregnant with a daughter, her daughter already has the egg cells that will become her grandchildren. So there is a priestess lineage that is passed down when we are in our mother's wombs. Yeah.
I've heard that, like, prenates that I have were once in my grandma. Is that what you're talking about?
So when your grandma was pregnant with your mom,
The egg
your
that
mom
we
had
use.
your egg cell in her.
Okay.
Yes. Does that make sense? So there's this interconnectedness. One of the things that I talk about in my book is the idea of priesthood and how it complements the idea of priesthood. Okay? Priesthood is like this, okay? It's these vertical lines, this vertical motion, it's hierarchical, it's top down, okay? The priesthood goes like this. And the idea is that it is global. All women are born into the priesthood. We have to be, because it's about giving us the power and authority to do our work, to do our stewardship, which is to give life. Okay? So when you are born, you are endowed with priesthood.
It's interesting that you say that, because we talk about the difference between a woman and a man's brain, and how when they're in the womb, the men's testosterone lets out and detaches some of the connections between the left and right brain, and in doing so it allows its left brain to grow bigger. And so we have equal brain capacity, but then the left brain. And that gets it so that they can go through the motions, they can do the muscle memory stuff, even when things get emotional, and they can just go, they can get stuff done. But it also makes it easier for them to address any issues in the now, any issues that come up right then. But a female, their brain cells stay connected, and so they're looking at the bigger picture and at future things that might come, past things. And so they're able to guide and direct and to work from. And then when stuff comes up in the now, they're more prepared for it. So men don't have to work as hard.
Oh, that was terrible, sorry.
The scriptures sometimes use what you could call linking words, word links. Keywords is another way to think of it. And they are words that have a deeper meaning, words that are symbolic, words that contain a mystery, especially a temple mystery. In this case, counsel is a name of Heavenly Mother. When you read that in the scriptures, when Isaiah says that Christ shall come forth and he will have the spirit of wisdom and understanding and counsel and knowledge and strength and might, those are all divine feminine terms. Okay. Women have the capacity to counsel because of exactly what you just said. That is a part of our stewardship. Have any of you heard of the Mentina archives or the Nemenha records? They're kind of the same thing. Some of you have. Okay. These are, I would call them apocryphal texts, but they're connected to the Book of Mormon and to some of the prophets in the Book of Mormon. Haggith went north at the end of Alma, and these records are his story, the story of his family. And they go north, and they are setting up their government. And they're looking back at their brothers, the Nephites, and they're like, we don't want to do what they did because they got secret combinations and they got all of this corruption in their government and it just didn't work. And now they're at war and they kill each other all the time. We really don't want to do that. And so they're like, what do we do? And they have a man who was a military man who had great wisdom. And he said, if you don't want war, then you need to gather your women, and your women will be the ones who nominate the leaders. Because men are looking at protectiveness, yes, but there's also a competitiveness that comes with masculinity. Again, the sperm racing each other, that's a very masculine interpretation of how things would go down, right? They said the women will be thinking about protecting their children, and they will elect leaders who won't go to war, because that's what our priority is. our life-giving power. So our council, our biology is set up to support our work, our spiritual work. And this hits on the issue of why it's so important that we as women learn how to be feminine, that we learn how to do this stewardship the way women work. And that's a challenge in and of itself, because our brains are built differently, but we're told through the world that we live in, to be masculine.
And then we go, you don't want us to be masculine. We'll take you out.
Well, and here we do. And so there's a truth in that, right? Is that, here's the thing. Women give birth to boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
We can play in both fields. We can do the baby making and we can do the making money. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we should. Okay? Because our men can't. They can't just switch us and be like, okay, you go work, I'll do the baby making. Okay? When we do that, men are like, okay, well, you got it. I'm going to play video games. No offense to the men. I hope that's not offensive. I want you guys to know that, like, I've spent most of my life in masculine energy. Okay? And it's only been in the last 2 years when Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother said, you need to know the divine feminine, that started to change. And you want to know the first thing that happened? Within a week of this prayer and that answer, I lost my 6-figure job. And I was the breadwinner, and we were buying a massive house at the time. So God said, you need to know the divine feminine. Step 1, stop being the masculine. Let your husband go make money. Is that a sacrifice? Yeah. Is it freaking scary? Yeah. It's hard, especially because he never made money and he wasn't that responsible at the time. No offense to him. He would have done it. My husband's great. But that was really important for me to step into my femininity and also to allow him to step into his masculinity. And me being the one to sacrifice and make that change has right-sided both of us, and it's made our marriage better than it has. Okay, so there's underlying principles here. We've gotten way off track. I apologize for the tangent. But hopefully you get what I'm saying.
That being said, though,
Yes.
if you're going to do that, you need a man who will respect your feminine.
You do need
Because
a
if he
masculine
does
man.
not,
Or a man who is willing to work with you.
yes.
Okay? Because at the same time that women have been taught to be masculine, men have been emasculated.
Right.
So a lot of them don't know how to be masculine either. What you need is someone who's willing to work with you. Okay?
And who's willing to be healthy masculine.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Too often they think, oh, you want me to be the
destroying,
man.
I'm gonna
I'll
take you
spank
down.
the kids.
No, a man who will listen to counsel
Right.
and collaborate with you.
And
Okay?
take care of you
Be a
so you're
partner with
safe,
you.
and then you can move forward and make everything else safe in the home.
This is actually, I did it a little bit backwards. Okay, that's the yin yang symbol. That's really good. This is the goal for our marriage. Okay? This is a partnership. The dark side on the left is the feminine, although it should be facing down, so I apologize about that. The white side on the right is the masculine. Both of us have a little bit of the opposite energy, okay? I've still got a lot of masculine. My ministry kind of requires that. Men mostly need to be in masculine energy. The feminine is more flexible. We have more nuance because everything in our life is crazy. We're more masculine than our children, or else the house would be burned down and everyone would be dead. Okay? So we have a little bit more flexibility to figure this out. But the goal is for me to balance in my femininity and him to balance in his masculinity. And we come together and we create life. And we have a partnership with each other. Okay. Going back to our discussion about birth, sex is actually a really great symbol of that. Because it puts a man in his masculine. He's going to initiate. He's going to be the driving force. Women, to enjoy that, we need to receive. We need to be open to that. Okay, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that. But you get the idea. Any thoughts, questions? Yeah.
I just wanted to say something about the birth process. I don't think that we touched on the nearness of the veil and the mother being so close to death, bringing that life in. We have 8 children. Our last 5 were at home with just me and my wife. So I had to watch my wife go right to the veil to go get our child, and almost having lost her multiple times. But also watching her be so in tune with the Spirit, Heavenly Father, listening to the baby, listening to her body. All I had to do was watch her. And if it was a twitch, if it was a nose crinkle, I knew she needed something, and then she would alert me to this baby's facing the wrong way. We gotta turn it. This is what I want you to do, X, Y, Z. We need to go to the end of the bed. We need to hang my leg over this. Help me massage here. I'm doing all these things. Then it's pressure on the back. I need more pressure. I need more pressure. So having her so in tune helped me to appreciate how much closer she is to spiritual things, heavenly things, listening to her body, and that got me to see this divine feminine power that is innate in her, not given to me. It's all her. So it helped me to see that with just me and her in the room, and our new baby coming.
Yeah. Thank you. I love that.
And one last thing. The placenta, we passed around the thing. I never knew about the placenta. About 3 or 4 kids in, and she was so protective of the placenta and wanted me to, we need to put it in the bowl, and why am I not cutting it? It's out. Let the placenta feed the baby even afterwards. And I'm saving the placenta. Even if I'm taking her to the hospital, we have the placenta inside of a bowl, and we're taking the baby and her into to be checked out. All those things I didn't know. I learned about how important the placenta was and what it was. Like you said, you never saw one for a while, and then I was dealing with one coming out, and she's like, "Get it in there."
Yeah.
It opened up my eyes to how much goes on in there.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you. You said a lot that I really want to just touch on, because I think that you shared a lot of really beautiful symbols that would be important for us to see. The idea of the thinness of the veil. Women have a veil in us before we get pregnant. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Anatomically, I'm trying to be subtle. Okay. Hymen. Have you guys heard of the hymen? Okay. This is a literal veil. In the Jewish wedding ceremonies, it was a year-long process between the betrothal and the wedding, between the bride and the groom. And as a part of the actual ceremony, the bride and the groom would go and consummate the marriage. And then they would come out and they would show a bloody cloth as a witness to the purity of the bride. Okay. And it was also a symbol that the veil had burst, that there had been a communion that had taken place between both of them. Okay. So I think that that's really beautiful to think about. Jesus Christ, when it describes his condescension, his atonement, his death and resurrection, uses so much language that relates to birth, to labor and delivery. He talks about himself as having birth pains, as travailing. He invites us to come and drink living waters from his koilia, is the Hebrew word, and it means a belly or a womb space. Okay. So there's something about Jesus Christ who emulated women that would be worth our thinking about. Okay. Women's intuition. This is a real thing. Okay. We're kind of not taught that, and if we are, I know that I have friends who were really upset at the idea that women have innate spirituality, because in some culture, church culture, all kinds of stuff, I guess that gets heard as women are spiritual, therefore men don't need to try. And I would say that that's not what we're talking about, right?
Or that we know more than them and that makes them mad.
Right.
If we can tell something's up, why not say the whole thing? And help everybody be as great as us instead of just keep it to ourselves or say it and look better and smarter than everyone. I hate it when they do that.
There's a lot of it, yeah.
Candidate street.
Right, and that competition is an unhealthy masculine quality. Okay. And women adopt it all the time.
It's called jealousy.
Yes. we adopt it all the time, right? And so there are cultural things that can kind of make us be like, oh, women have intuition. But the truth of the matter is, because our job is, as I love how you said it, going to the veil to retrieve life and bring it into this physical realm through embodiment, which, by the way, is the definition of faith. Okay? The definition of faith is to create spiritually to the degree that it gets pulled into our physical reality. Okay? That is what women do all the time. And because of that connection, because we are the vessels that light and life comes through, be it a child or inspiration of another kind, we have this. Okay? This is living scripture. And it lives in the feminine soul. It lives in our spirits, it lives in our bodies, and we can attune to it. And birth is a fantastic way to do that. Especially birth with no one else but each other. That's intense. That'll help you, right? But that's one of the things that a lot of us women have forgotten or not been taught, that's A, real, B, necessary, C, accessible. Okay? It is, though. It's in our flesh, and we can learn how to access that all the time. And birth helps us. Birth is a great way to do that. I love how you talked about the father's role, right? In my last birth with my baby at home, I was so grateful to have my husband there, doing counter pressure, filling up the tub, doing the masculine things that I couldn't do because I was busy birthing a baby, right? There is a collaboration that takes place here where a priest and a priestess are working together. And they form a quorum. And you can add midwives to that. And midwives represent the priesthood. And our collaboration as sisters, we work together to do this work. Okay, let's talk one last thing. Let's talk a little bit about the baby. Okay, what's the baby's role in getting born?
To receive new life.
To receive, which is masculine or feminine? Feminine. What else?
To grow.
To grow in a passive way, right? The baby's not forcing itself to grow. It's just letting the process happen. It's allowing for growth.
The baby is squeezed and almost goes through its own death and rebirth through that labor and that birth as they come through and they take that first breath. And the first breath is painful for a child, and that's why if they cry, that's usually why they do cry, is because it's something so new and so different, and they just had to go through this thing where they thought they were really just gonna be squeezed to death, and here they come out into what they really wanted. They didn't even know it.
I think it's the first time of surrender too, because up to this point, our spirits are already developed and grown, and they have to surrender to this new process of a body being created and not having the abilities that they have before, as this body's being created, and as they're coming into this new space and trying to figure out how it all works. I think that's like the first surrender experience that we have.
Absolutely.
I think that one of the things that they do inadvertently, not knowing, is to teach us. They teach us patience, they teach us about who they are. One of the great things that I love that we have done with our children is a lot of it. We don't give them a name for the first week, 2 weeks, maybe even a month. Because we like to get to know their personality. When they teach us who they are, and it's like, oh, that's definitely a little Rudy. She teaches my son little Rudy. But
well, she teaches.
Oh, she teaches.
I'm just there to tease him.
so yeah, inadvertently, and then they're going to teach us a whole bunch of other things, like this child is a holy terror, hellion. or they're the perfect kid, and we could just appreciate them.
This is another mystery about God that I think sometimes gets a little bit lost in the weeds, is that we see God because they're so superior to who we are. They, because it's Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. That's why I use that pronoun. They're so above how we are that we just see them as like they're just independent. Like they know everything, they know how to do everything, they do all the work, all of them. But the real mystery is that they are interdependent. They are interdependent on each other. They are interdependent on other gods. It's a God family. And they are also interdependent on us. When we engage with them, when we work with them, it enhances them. We are in partnership with them, whether we're aware of that all the time or not. And so we're teaching them. They know cosmic amounts of stuff. But their glory and light is expanding because we are expanding. In the same way that when your child grows up and becomes an adult and they're fully functioning and they only needed minimal therapy to undo the damage that you did, and they're responsible and they're good humans, that feels good. That shines a light on you, right? It's the same thing for them. The baby. Oh, go ahead.
Can I just add a little bit to that? I think also when you step into that role of being the mother and they are coming to you for knowledge and you're connected to heavenly knowledge, that gives you the opportunity to be the conduit to learn more as you're teaching, and that also is enhancing to you as a mother to be connected to them and sharing it with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Without getting too deep, in the King Follett Discourse, Joseph Smith taught that we are co-eternal with God. That we have existed for the same eternities that they have existed. And that's kind of hard to wrap our minds around because they're our parents, right? How does that work? And in this space where we have time, our parents do come first, right? Like they're older, they're mature. That's what enables them to bear us. But another way to think of a parent is someone who invites a soul into a new reality, into a new phase of existence for the purpose of helping them progress. Okay, so that's what we're doing. When we have children, we didn't make the soul of that child. We didn't make their spirit. We participated in making them a body. As women, we are the vessels that also help bestow the light of Christ, which I talk about a little bit in my book. That's part of why this intuitive connection is also so strong, is because we are the way that Christ has designated that the light of Christ is bestowed on all of humankind. Okay? It's through the mother. But we didn't make the eternal intelligence of that child. What we're doing is inviting them into the next death and rebirth cycle of their existence. Our heavenly parents do that as well. Yeah.
So I had some connecting thoughts about how, so during sex, when there's an orgasm that happens, that actually mirrors when the woman's giving birth. That same reaction is usually what happens when they're giving birth. Some people laugh, some people cry. It's different for everybody. But I've always found that to be, I guess, considered the Holy of Holies. It's incredibly pure and sacred to me. But I also was realizing while you were explaining these is that while that baby is being born, when that marriage was consummated, or that there was a balance of the masculine and the feminine energy that would create a moment for agency for that child to choose. Because I found that with my marriage is that when we stopped competing against each other with egos, it became free to choose whether we, wanted to take care of the kids this way, or I don't know. I felt like I had a lot more freedom when I was able to come into my role as a mother. And it's the same thing with this. I feel like it's allowing that veil to thin, choosing agency or another spirit having that option of agency in life.
One last thought, and then we'll move on to the next part. But if the baby doesn't want to get born without removing medical intervention, baby doesn't get born. The baby is the one who gives off the hormones that say, okay, mom, you can start labor now. All right, this is good. This is a good board. This is a great discussion. So I want to transition it just for a little bit.
So don't prepare their bed too early.
Right. I know.
They'll be ready.
My last baby, he's such a doll. I love him. He came on his due date. He's a very good baby. Anyway. All my babies are great. That was just nice. That was just a cherry on top. Okay, so here are our symbols. Sex, pregnancy, labor, delivery. We didn't get into nursing. There's a lot there too. But this is enough to go off of. What I want to know is, looking at this board and reflecting on the conversation that we had, what truths do you feel like are resonating with you about how we can see our Heavenly Mother in this process?
It's like we are holding her hand as we go through it, as though we're doing it with her.
Mm-hmm. Women are shadows of our Heavenly Mother. Our bodies, our spirits, our minds, our biology, the way that we work is a reflection of her. And so if we don't know her, or we don't feel like we know her very well, it might be worth learning more about ourselves. How we work, how we operate. Thank you. Other thoughts?
I think she is instrumental in all existence. Very powerful. And I'm looking at like what ties all this together, where there is a thread that follows through all of these ideas. And it's hard to put into words what that thread is, because we use symbols because we can't really say it, right? Like there's not a word or a series of words that can really encompass that kind of existence.
Yeah. How do we capture her? Yeah, there's a reason that she's behind the veil, right? And that we don't really see her or feel drawn to her until we are, is because she is power. She is mystery. She is half of the threads of eternity that we tend to forget sometimes.
We struggle for even our words. Like, we use the priesthood. Well, that's not right. Like, we feel it. That's not right. But what is right? What's the right word? And, just, I'm looking for the right word.
Yeah.
But
Right?
I don't
What is
quite have
goddess?
Goddess.
But how do we describe our part in that? Like, you have the priesthood, and it's an organization, and yet here we are, like, born into this already born to make this blood sacrifice, already born to lay our lives on an altar, already born to do this, and just because nobody told us that that's what we're doing doesn't change the fact that that's what we're doing. And it's all part of this mother power.
If talking and speaking and language is the masculine, silence is the feminine. And it doesn't mean that she needs to be silenced or should stay that way, but it means that she does speak to us in the silence, in the moments that you can't put into words. She is there. She is a part of that revelation that comes straight to your heart. And you can't articulate it and you can't journal about it, but you know that it's true.
It seems to me that there's a space. So the temple is a space, the womb is a space, heaven and earth is like this. So we're all born into this role of holding space that the masculine can operate within, but that, like, I don't know, I keep doing this in my hands because there's a lot of circular
Yes,
symbolism.
it is.
And there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess that idea is just holding space. And so maybe that is part of it, like you were saying, silence. Words fit into silence. Silence doesn't fit into words, right? Like words come into what is already there. And so it seems to me that that holding, that encompassing is what allows all the other things to even exist.
Yeah. Space to create. She holds that space to create, right? I want to talk about these symbols. They're on your garment. A mark of the square over the right breast. The right is the masculine. The square is the masculine. Straight edges, straightforward, structured, providing a framework. Okay. The compass, not the compass that points north. I didn't know that for a long time. Hopefully you guys are faster than me. I didn't know that for a long time. We're talking about the architecture's compass that you use to draw a circle. You actually flip this on its head and hold one end steady and it draws a circle. Okay. The circle and the compass are that feminine. They're on the left side. So that circle, it is this eternal space, right? Where men are providing this kind of this temporal structure, right? If you think about the church, the format of it, that it's an institution, that it's a hierarchy, that's all very masculine. And so it's good that men are officiating that. We could use more women, because we need this more, right? But it's two different kinds of space that come together to create the whole. Yeah.
I just want to say that the compass is what creates the circle.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it. That's why it's not a circle.
Right.
Because it's the creation.
It's the creative capacity, right? I love to think about the imagery of the dark side of the moon, because what's there? Nobody knows, okay? Unless you go out into a totally different place in space. We don't know what's on the dark side of the moon, and I think that that's on purpose, because there is an infinite creative capacity. There is an unending space that she holds that is pure creative potential. Yeah.
I was taught about another symbol about the Star of David. And if you break it up into the two triangles, one's the masculine and one's the feminine. So the receiving is the feminine. And you bring them together as a whole.
Absolutely.
A lot of symbolism.
Pointing up, masculine, right? This is the blade of the sword. Elementally, air, fire are the masculine. This is the chalice. It's the feminine. Holds water, and it holds what's the other one? Earth, heaven, Mother Earth, right? Creative space, womb space. And when you bring them together, we have the star. Yeah.
And the 6 points can also represent balance in yourself, like your mental, your social, your spiritual, your physical.
Yeah. These are two whole people, right? This is not 50% plus 50% equals 100. This is 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 equals 1. That's Godness. Okay.
Which brings an ultimate protection too. They're now sealed as one. And the balance is both of them with the maker. When of course they seal.
Yeah.
When you look at the stars, ancient and it's a complete whole, but there's still two separate ones.
I want to say something toward what you said about God math.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, go forth and multiply. And so multiply, a lot of people say one person plus one person. That is not multiplication, that's addition, right? And 1 plus 1 would be 2. But 1 times 1 is 1. If you have a person who is whole and pure and good and they're very healthy, say mentally healthy, and then you have a person who, say, is a 0.5, like that you complete me kind of person.
Yeah.
1 times half is half. And so that's why you have to pair with somebody. And you need to pair with someone who is at your level, who is like equally yoked, those kinds of things, because otherwise the person who is less healthy or who is less spiritual or who is less aware will actually bring the sum total down.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good, I'm gonna cry.
And we're laughing because we're like, oh, it's too close to home. But yes, no, you're totally right. And this is a process,
That just
right?
makes it
Like,
better if it's close to
I
home.
know, I know, it's
It makes it
good.
better.
I'm okay with feeling convicted. It's not the first time today. But this is all a process, right? How long does it take to birth a baby?
Hours,
9
days.
months.
9 months.
But the mental preparedness takes a long time.
It takes a long time, right? So the idea, what that means is that this is all a process, okay? Heavenly Mother had a process. We have a process. It's okay that we're not the finished product yet. Okay? She gets that. She's been that herself. I remember there was this year's been rough. I don't remember all the crap that's been going on, but at some point earlier this year there was some stuff going on, and I don't remember if I was given a blessing or if I was just talking to God. I think my husband gave me a blessing. And one of the things he said was, Heavenly Mother knows exactly how you feel because she went through the exact same thing. And I'm like, it's hard to understand, but I know that it's true. Okay? So she holds the womb space for us as we're going through our developmental process. Okay? She's great with the fact that we're not ready to be born yet. Our lungs aren't ready. Our heart's not ready. She's going to be there when it is. For us and our marriage. Okay.
And she's interdependent. She'll know all the nurses and stuff that can help with the incubation process if it comes too early.
Exactly. And she brings people into our lives, right? In the Native American tradition, they have an image of her, they call her Grandmother Spider. And I said that to my son once, and he was like, I don't like spiders. And I'm like, I get that. People aren't a big fan because they're kind of different. They're kind of creepy. They're a little bit mysterious, like women, like her in some ways. A little bit misunderstood, but so integral to the economic system. What am I trying to say? Biological, whatever. I don't know what it is. Life, yeah. They're important, okay? I don't like flies, so I'm a fan of her spiders over the flies. But the idea behind Grandmother Spider is that she takes threads from all the different places, threads of truth, and she can weave them together in a way that creates more unity, higher truth, peace, prosperity, love, community, relationships, right? That's her arena.
I've never thought of it before, but the body of a spider kind of looks like an 8, and then it has 8 legs, and 8 is the symbol for infinity.
Infinity and
perfection.
rebirth. Rebirth too. Yes. This and that. My handwriting is so bad on this board, you guys.
I was gonna say earlier, but it seems like we passed it by that you have the warp and the weft, and that the mother is the weaver.
She is that.
And as another symbol for her whenever you're reading about cloth and reading in the scriptures, you need to be thinking mother. Like, what is this saying about mother?
So interesting because they say our life's a tapestry. So it's like she's weaving our lives.
you're masculine, but
And quite literally,
Mm-hmm.
the very physical beings of our existence. You
Right.
leave those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you need both, just what you were saying.
Yeah.
We need the masculine warp and the feminine weft. Okay. Both of them are created, but she is a weaver. Okay. Let's talk about this. What does her partnership look like? Is he hiding her in a closet to protect her because she can't handle it?
Control so he can have all the power.
Right.
He's not doing that.
Oh.
I think if not by design, just in the timeline of this earth, we were talking about this time in the earth, and if you take a 30,000 foot view of this, this topic of Mother Earth, Mother in Heaven, feminine, divine, all these things. 10 years ago, I would get me away from this feminine stuff. But as I became a student of truth, and all I wanted to know was truth, and all I need is truth, and all I search for is truth, this cackling of women and the cries of all this stuff that they're saying, I said, okay, maybe there's something to this. Because I respect my mother, and I respect women. And as I began to look deeper into it, I began to see this tsunami wave of this feminine divine energy that's transformative for this earth and this time that can't be accomplished by men thinking. It has to come with the women and their intuitiveness, their lovingness. It's a different kind of thing that's happening right now at this time. And just the fact that we're here talking about it, that you wrote a book about it, something that 2-3 years ago it wasn't even on your radar, says something to that power. And I think she's coming forth out of the darkness, because we've been in a relative dark ages, as it were, to Mother in Heaven. And now, together with Heavenly Father, big things are in store for us as a human race, for this earth, for this time, for this nation, and for each one of us as a spirit child of those two people, those two spirits, those two. And so it's really, I think, like I said, a tsunami of this feminine divine energy that a lot of people are going to get swept over. You have to get on board with it and learn about it. And one of the things I really wanted to touch was, I have some sisters. I'm the oldest of 8, and I have 5, 6 sisters. And I have many sisters who are not able to give birth. But I've seen them ride this wave of masculinity, but then they're coming into their feminine divine. And they can embody all of these things that we've talked about without ever having to have had a baby. So you don't have to have had children to know that you have power and life and can give comfort. Your temple, your body's a temple, and all of these things. You just have to learn about Heavenly Mother and touch into those emotions that she can give off to you.
Beautiful. Amen to all of that. Thank you for that beautiful testimony. Yes, it's so true. All women are mothers. Okay, all of us. I talk about my daughter Peyton. She's 6. She's got developmental delays. She's kind of more like an 18-month-old, and whoa, she stresses me out. She's got a big personality, and she won't. Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is there a bathroom?
Yeah, I can take. Okay. Anyway, Peyton she's a Scorpio, if you know what that means, and she'll sting you. Like, she's got sweet and sassy in that little body, and she'll never have kids. Like, that won't be a part of her life path. But she is a mother to me. She's a mother to her dad. She's a mother to her siblings. So we, as women, that is who we are, regardless of whether or not we physically bear children. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, the theme that keeps coming up that like embodies all of this is that word by cleaning something.
Mm-hmm.
You can give life by making someone smile. You can give life by giving encouraging words. You can, it's like it's a feeling rather than sometimes a physical thing.
Yeah. In Greek, there are two different words for life. There's bios, which is like your life, right? Your body, the life in your body, the life in your flesh. And there's zoe. And zoe is life of an eternal nature. It's the life that Jesus Christ offers us. Zoe is also the Greek word for Eve. So Eve is the mother of eternal lives. And Joseph Smith had a revelation once that said, you know, in the Garden of Eden account, Adam is given his spirit, but it should have been correctly translated that Eve was given spirits, meaning all of the spirits in humanity were bestowed to her and her stewardship. And we are a part of that lineage. I realize it's getting a little bit late, so we probably want to wrap it up. But I hope that this has been something for you to look at and see your Heavenly Mother a little bit more, and also especially to see her in yourselves, and to recognize that you are a shadow of your Heavenly Mother. You are a reflection of her. You have the same capacity that she does as women. And men, we appreciate you and the shadows that you are of our Heavenly Father. That could be a whole book in and of itself, but I'm probably not going to write it. Okay. But I just bear witness of these truths. I'm so grateful for the things that I've learned about her. I have so much more to learn about her, but I know that this invitation is on the table. Exactly what you were just saying. There is a divine feminine restoration going on. It's a part of where we are in the world, okay? Zion is a woman. She's a bride. So we should understand these things if we're going to expect to help bring her forth. Okay. The last thought that I'll share is at the end of the book of Malachi. It talks about how the sealing power has to go forth because the hearts of the children need to turn to the fathers, and the fathers' hearts need to turn to the children. And the way that that happens, I've come to learn, is through the instrumentality of a mother. Mothers are the ones who connect fathers and children. That is our role. And that is going to continue to be her role as we prepare the world for the very exciting things that are around the corner. Thank you.